Okay, there we go. That's good. So another fortnight has gone by. They go by pretty fast when you get into this life program. You realise how quick the weeks do flash past. So tonight is session 2. And hello, Kath. Oh, can you see? Yeah. Hello, kids. So tonight is session 2 and it's all things nutrition tonight. So there is a lot to get through. But as always, if you've got questions or any comments or anything like that, you can either just yell out or you can use the chat box, whatever you would like to do. But I do just want to get a little bit of feedback if you did have a chance to do your food and exercise diary, whether there was anything that you noticed, anything that was hard, easy, interesting. Catherine, I'll start with you if you don't mind, because you're top and left of my screen tonight. How did you go with the food diary?
So I did really well. I recorded everything. So
good job.
Have all my little sheets.
Yeah, fantastic.
So it did make me think about what I was actually going to eat, because I had to write it down and having to write down every little thing.
Yeah.
But I also took some measurements when I first started. So
good.
That was interesting. And now, conveniently, my scales have stopped working, so I can't weigh myself.
Right.
But I have been able to have a track of my measurements. But yeah, I did still have some naughty things in there.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's life. We can't expect you to be, angelic all day, every day. So that's absolutely fine. But yeah, that's great. So you notice that the food diary just makes you a little bit more accountable as such.
Yeah. And then today's been cold, so I've been hungrier today.
Looking for more satisfying foods. Yeah.
So I did a little snack during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that's what another really good point about food diaries is, that it shows habits that you may not even realize that you'd have, but perhaps, where there is something that influences the way that you do and don't eat. So it's just interesting just to be aware of it, just sort of highlights things that you may not already be recognizing in yourself. So that is great. Good on you. Thanks, Catherine. Helena, how are you? Oh, you are both there. How are you both? Sorry, now I can see you both. Now, Helena, you're muted still.
It out. Oh, there we go.
There
Sorry.
you are. No, you're totally fine.
Sorry, I just couldn't get it to work. Yeah, I've been going okay. I sort of recorded in our book for the 3 days, and then I've recorded a little bit on one of the apps.
Good.
I found as the time went on,
it
was easier to be less compliant.
Yeah.
And also, I've just finished a stint of night duty of 3 night shifts, and it's very, very hard to maintain any pattern.
Yes.
Because I kind of eat normally, go on night shift, and then I kind of snack overnight and sleep the next day. So it's very, very haphazard. And I do 2 weeks of night shift every 8 weeks. So it does kind of mess up the routine for a little bit, and it makes me a bit more stressed. They've been very stressful shifts. So then it becomes, I'm less compliant if I'm stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as I said to Catherine too as well, that's what's good about the food diary, is that it does sort of highlight patterns and routines and rhythms that, there's not much you can do. You have to do the night shift, and shift work is incredibly hard when it comes to getting into routines and things. But even if you're just aware of it, that makes a big difference. So,
So it does. I think it is good for making you aware. But we've been really good with our exercise though.
Oh, fantastic. Good on you.
Yeah, so we did 3 walks, and Peter did 3 walks. And then the second, was it 2 weeks? Yeah, and then the second week, I think I got 2 in, and then I went on night shift. And Peter's been good. He's done his 3 as well. So the exercise has been good. We've been
fantastic.
Trying hard to do that, but I'll let him speak.
Yeah, that's right. How are you, Peter?
Thanks.
That's good.
I've been doing the same. I've been keeping a record of what I eat every day on my phone. Like I mentioned, we spoke when you rang me that on was it on Tuesday? Yeah, and I've been doing the walks, as Helena said, and I've been drinking a lot more water. I've been,
Fantastic.
pushing myself to drink more water too. So
Yeah,
especially one
fantastic.
glass in the morning.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, they're great changes, small but mighty. So that's excellent. Good on you both. I'm really thrilled. It's a great start. It's only been 2 weeks, so that's a lot to have already sort of been ticking off in 2 weeks. So that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And it is so hard to drink water in the winter. Like even I was thinking today, it's been freezing in Shepparton today, and I think it is hard. Like it's even harder again to sort of remember to keep sipping. Laura, oh, sorry, you all right, Laura?
Hang on.
Do you want me to come back to you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, somebody just knocked at the front door,
Oh.
and the kids were getting put to bed. So I'm like,
Oh, it's so typical. So
Yeah.
typical.
First week, I will be honest, and I didn't do very well with my food diary.
Yes, that's
But
okay.
I had very, very hectic with the 2 kids and up and down sickness and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Second week after speaking to Cass, it's late now. Sorry. Second
fine.
week I was speaking with Kath on the weekend, and she's like, "You need to do it. We need to do it." So having Kath's going, "I'm doing it." Sort of pushed me to do it. But then, as you said, writing down and being accountable of what you're actually putting in. There was a box of like fundraising chocolates at work.
Yeah, killer.
And I looked at it and was like, "Why are you doing this to me?"
Yeah.
Chocolate's my weakness, but I actually went, you know what? I actually don't need it, and went and had a piece of fruit instead. So I've really upped my fruit intake and everything as well over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good on you. I'm on a solo pursuit to try and get rid of those bloody chocolate boxes. Like they're just killers. They just land in workplaces and they just get consumed. Like I know that they're generally fundraising for wonderful things, but do they make it hard? So good on you. That's great, Laura. And you do, I mean, this is, again, we're just sort of getting started. So any positive thing that can come out of your first 2 weeks is a win in my book. So that's excellent. Good on you. Linda, how are you?
I'm good. It's interesting. I did keep the food diary. I didn't do the first day, but then the booklet arrived and I photocopied them.
Oh, good.
So I did it. The last 2 days, I haven't kept it. And I'm sure I haven't eaten as well. So it's interesting. I have increased my fruit intake and I have increased my exercise as well. So
good on you. Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. That's really, really good. That's a wonderful start. And it's true. Well, as soon as you don't have to write it down, you think, oh, well, I'll just eat whatever I like.
I'm contemplating whether I'll continue.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, good on you. Thank you, Linda. Mark, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I try to keep it short because I've been basically sick.
Oh, yeah, no, good.
And I don't think eating Anticol every day over and over is like something to write down in my diary.
No, it's not really worth recording. No.
I didn't really get I was completely aware of it, and I've got a book, but I haven't had a chance to get onto the diary.
Yep, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Intentions, but no follow through.
No, that is absolutely fine.
But I could pretty easily rattle off what I eat in a day because it's been pretty hard to eat. So it's like milk and maybe yogurt and a piece of bread.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a lot in a diary.
No. And you know what? As soon as you're unwell, all this stuff, it doesn't go out the window, but getting better becomes the priority. So you just do what your body feels. And so if it's just bulk medicine, then that's what is required.
Yeah,
but
I've got a whole chemist warehouse in the pantry.
Yeah, that's right. It's fantastic. Yeah. And there's so much going around at the moment. So, but do you know what? I'm really thrilled that you still came tonight, because in previous life groups, I've had people that shy away from coming because they think they'll almost be in trouble because they haven't sort of done anything for the fortnight. But please don't ever feel like that. Like even if you sat here and just said, Katie, I'm not even interested. I haven't done anything for 2 weeks and I'm hardly listening. I would still much rather that you're here. So It's fantastic. So thank you very much for still coming, even though it has been a slog of a 2 weeks. And hopefully you'll then start to feel a bit better.
I'm here because I'm specifically interested in the nutrition part, which is
Oh,
tonight.
cool. Yes,
So,
awesome.
Yep, I'm all ears.
Well, get ready. Excellent. That's good. All blocked ears. That's good. Phil, how are you? Just unmute.
You can hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, I did well. I just write down each day what I ate, and
Yep.
yeah, look, it does help. But yeah, as the other guy said, a little bit of chocolate here and there.
Yeah.
With those naughty work things. But no, it's been good. Yeah, just been doing exercise. I probably do 10,000 steps a day at work anyway.
Great. Yeah, good.
I walk around the factory all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to eat healthy.
Yeah, that's all you can do. You just got to wake up each morning and give yourself the pep talk.
Yeah, but it's funny how the food diary does work. You look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, right. I could get better with smoko or lunch or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, and that's all. Yeah, for sure. And it is. It's just a continuous educational piece. So that's great. It just keeps it front and in your mind, I suppose. You're a bit more aware of things. So, yeah, that's great, Phil. Excellent. Thank you for that. Tamara, how about you? Just unmute yourself for me, please. Don't worry.
Ups and downs.
Yeah.
The food diary. I'm not sure who recommended MyFitnessPal, but that was great.
Oh, good.
In terms of keeping it that up to date. It was a little. So that was really helpful. But like others have said, when I don't write it down, it's my eating is a lot more fluid.
Yeah.
Like Helena, who does night shift, I don't do night shift, but I go away for work a lot, and that's eating, getting room service and all that sort of stuff, which is different portion sizes, trying to make the right choices. It's sort of a bit tricky, but that will sort of improve for me in the next month.
Yeah, good.
And I think the one-on-one that we had, Katie, where you sort of gave me those little goals around like having more fruit and trying to exercise, that I've embraced that. So that's been really good. So I've done
great.
I walk most days, and in the afternoon I have that extra piece of fruit, and like the little incremental changes.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And the trouble for me is like when I do eat out. So, sometimes, like I said, portion sizes, and in terms of the plate, how it's meant to be half colourful. It doesn't happen like that when you eat out. So
no, it certainly doesn't.
How to work through that is probably the hardest one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. But for sure, I mean, even it can feel like all the success needs to be seen in the scales. And I think it's really important to sort of try and shake the shackles of that, because if all you're doing is including more fruit in your diet, your body will simply be loving that way more than just excessive weight loss, So it is very much so a work in progress. And whether you do or don't see any change in the scales doesn't mean whether you've been successful or not. So, and I totally agree, eating out is really, really challenging. And if you do it more than you would like to, in terms of, with the room service and things, it does get really tricky. But a lot of the time it simply comes down to smaller portion sizes, because it's very hard to avoid the richness of, cooked meals that have been from restaurants and all the rest. But that's great though. You're really aware. You're really conscious of sort of making those smaller changes, and that's the most important bit. Good on you, Tamara. Thank you. Finally, Miss Michelle, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Okay, so I have had some successes and some less successful things going on in the last fortnight.
That's good.
Successes were I actually measured, what I was putting in my breakfast bowl, for example, which was interesting. I also changed from full fat milk and coconut milk, which my husband and I use in cooking probably once or twice a fortnight, I would say. Just changed that to low-fat milk, which I use personally every day.
Yeah, good.
And low-fat coconut milk. Easy, didn't notice the difference, no problem.
Easy swap, yep.
I've noticed that when things are going well with my kids, I'm able to do as much exercise as, you know, I like. But when things go haywire with the kids, my exercise is the thing that suffers.
Falls away,
you know? So I need to figure out a way that I can look after the kids and get my exercise in, because the exercise really helps me with you know, dealing with exhaustion and stress and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to look at that. The other thing is I tend to fall out of my habit, my sort of more regular eating, which I think my regular style of eating is pretty good, but I fall out of it when I'm out of a routine. So recently I spent a day at a symposium. So I was eating, you know,
whatever. Yeah, of course.
And enjoying it. And then I had relatives visiting from interstate for sort of 4 days, and they were eating at my place. And so I was providing their alcohol of choice and wine. And
delicious stuff.
Biscuits, so, you know,
of course.
And now we've got this stuff in the house because they didn't eat it all. And so now I'm thinking, oh, well, I really should finish off that cheese, and I really should, I've got this, I really should finish off kind of, you know,
mentality.
Up in the depression mentality that I've
right. You got to get rid of it all. So exactly.
That's right. I'll just clean out the fridge by finishing the last of that bottle of wine, you know, and I've got to catch myself doing that. What else? Oh, the other thing is I've become aware that I use sauces quite a bit. I marinate things and then I grill them.
Yes.
But the sauces, for example, will have quite a bit of salt in them. So that's, I think my next fortnight might be looking at the salt content and what's in the sauces and that kind of stuff. I think that might be a pretty easy change like the milk was. So that was me. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good on you, Michelle. There's lots of things to learn from in there. And tonight, that's exactly what we will do, actually, is we will look at how to read labels. And condiments are such a dynamite area when it comes to sugar and salt, and sort of they taste fantastic, of course, but they're generally preloaded with that kind of stuff. So absolutely, that's a perfect segue. Now that I say that, I don't even know where, it's here. Okay. Okay, so let me get started into tonight's session. So if you do have your book with you, we are launching into session 2 tonight. And I'll just share my screen to get into these slides. Now, as always, I will talk fast. So please tell me to slow down, or please say, Katie, can you repeat that? Or please just say whatever you need me to say if I am talking too quickly. Let me just bring that up. Okay, so the Life Program, session number 2, all things nutrition. This you guys already know, of course. The people that couldn't be here tonight have already let me know, so that's fantastic. Tonight's session is the facts on fat, fiber, salt, sugar. We touch a little bit on alcohol. We learn how to read a label, and then we go a little bit more into eating habits and also talking a little bit about healthy eating goals and things as well. So just to reiterate the life goals, tonight we will sort of go further into the food-related ones specifically. So decreasing the amount of fat that you eat, specifically saturated and trans fats, increasing the amount of fiber that you eat. Already, lots of you have already mentioned that you're increasing your fiber, and that just makes me so happy because fiber is so integral to the health of your body. So that's fantastic. Decreasing the amount of sodium that you consume, just like Michelle mentioned earlier. Increasing the amount of physical activity you do. And then if all that happens, there may also be a little bit of weight loss, which would be a nice bonus. So, of course, as a nutritionist, I could go on and on and on and on and on about all the benefits of healthy eating. But This is just a nice little slide just to show you that if you eat well most of the time. Now, I will continue to come back to that point about that it is most of the time. No one, not even me, eats perfectly all day, every single day. Perfection doesn't exist when it comes to food, okay? So if you eat well most of the time, your risk of obesity decreases, your body weight decreases, your chances of becoming insulin resistant decreases, your total cholesterol decreases, your serum triglycerides, which is a type of cholesterol, type of fat that can be found in your blood, decreases, and of course as well also your blood pressure decreases. So there's lots and lots and lots of benefits from eating really well. This is a slide this is just a little picture that a lot of you will have already seen in your, along the way, the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. It's very simplistic in terms of eating most, eating least, and eating moderate amounts of. So, of course, our grains, our vegetables are our eat most areas, and then eat moderately our dairy products, our proteins, and our fruits. And then eating sparingly is, of course, the foods that contain a lot of sugar and salt and fat. But food, as I'm sure you would all completely agree, food is a really emotional thing. If it was just as easy to eat like this, then we all would. But so many other factors come into why we eat what we eat. So, just as Michelle mentioned, when we think we need to clear the fridge out because it makes us feel better that we haven't wasted food, so we eat for that reason, or because it's cold today, so then we eat for that reason. There's lots of different reasons why we choose to eat the types of foods we eat and also the amounts that we eat. If we could just all bring it back to this, there'd be no need for me to have a job, because you would all be very capable of eating well. But so many other factors come into influencing what we choose and why we choose it. But this is just a nice little setup just to show that, yes, continue to eat all of your veggies, continue to eat lots of grains, eat small amounts of your sugary and salty products. So the facts about fat. So you should only eat a small amount of fat, and specifically reducing the amount of fat that you are consuming can help to control your weight, and more specifically, reduce your risk of diabetes, stroke, and heart disease. Now, when we are talking about fats, we are specifically drilling down into the saturated fats and the trans fats. Okay, so these are the types of fats that we find in fatty cuts of meat. So, the fat that is on meat, high fat dairy items, coconut oil and coconut products, of course, deep fried foods and processed snacks. Now, it's really important to underline the fact about the coconut products, because for the last few years, I suppose, coconut products have been really pushed in the market in terms of this is a wonderful health food product. And it does, it does have some sort of qualities about it. However, coconut itself has a lot of saturated fat in it. So you do need to be really careful about the amount of coconut-based foods that you are consuming, because saturated fat is the fat that we're really trying to reduce our intake of. So instead of saturated fats, what we really would like to be eating a lot of is monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Now, these are the fats that are really good for us. So they do a lot of wonderful things for our cells and for our bodies. And these are the types of fats that can be found in things like avocados, nuts, fishes, olive oils, those types of products. So these are the good oils in comparison to the bad oils. And as it's not quite as simple as that, but as much as often, if you can replace foods that are high in saturated fat with foods that are high in polyunsaturated or monounsaturated fats, then it's a really good thing. So that might be as simple as swapping out your coconut oil for your olive oil. If you're somebody that likes to have a lot of butter on your toast or on your sandwiches, maybe you might want to occasionally start using avocado as the spread, as the base. That's an easy swap in and out. Make sure you're having some raw nuts each day. And if your family tend to eat a lot of, mince or red meat or that type of thing each week, could you look at swapping out one meal and having it as a vegetarian meal or having it as a fish meal? So again, it's not about cutting everything out. It's just about making some smart swaps where you can. So saturated fats, trans fats, eat in a very small amount only. Monounsaturated and polyunsaturated are much better choices. Now, I should just mention, in the world of trans fats, Australia is really quite good at moderating how much trans fats manufacturers can use in our products, but they generally will be found in things like baked goods that you might buy from a supermarket. So if you went to a supermarket and bought a donut or something like that, generally you would find there are some trans fats in that type of product. So, but we are a lot better than some other countries where trans fats run a bit more rampant. What is dietary fiber? So fiber is by far, I think, my favorite nutrient out there because it does so many wonderful things for all of our bodies. So benefits of fiber, of course, it is so, so important for good health. High fiber foods are filling. Now, I want to underline that because it's not always about reducing the amount of food that you are eating. If you consume more foods that are full of fiber, you'll actually be eating more and you'll be feeling more satisfied. So fiber is a really good filling product, which is fantastic because it stops us from feeling starving and feeling like I need to have something else to eat. So, of course, because it is filling, it helps to satisfy your appetite longer, which can help with your weight management. Because, of course, when we are, I'm sure, as you know, as everyone will have done in the past, done really restrictive diets where you're not really allowed to eat very much, you feel hungry and then you think about food and then you think about what's the next thing you can eat. And then you become really obsessive with food because you're starving. When you're eating good amounts of fiber, you feel more full. So you don't go looking for food all day long. So lots of benefits from fiber. But also, it's incredibly important for gut health. So there's lots and lots of research being done in this space now. And the rule of thumb is the 30-30 rule. So which basically says that we should all be aiming for 30 different plant foods each and every week. Now, that doesn't mean to say, let me go back a step. Plant foods are, of course, your vegetables, your fruits, your grains, your beans, rices, couscous, all those things. Anything that basically grows out of the ground is considered a plant food. And the sort of aim of the game there is to have the variety. So if you are somebody that generally always picks up a red capsicum and a thing of broccoli and a potato each week, and those are your veggies for the week, when you go the following week, get a yellow capsicum and get some broccolini and maybe get a sweet potato just to mix it up. Your gut and your body really loves a variety of plants, a variety of different types of fiber. And to add to that, so 30 plant foods each week plus 30 grams of fiber per day. Now, for the women, we could get away, if we were getting close to 25 grams per day, that would be amazing. The men generally need to try and get to 30 grams per day. Women can get by with a little bit less. What does 30 grams of fiber look like? It's a fair bit, but a cup of brown rice is around 4 grams of fiber. A pear is getting closer to 6 grams. A cup of broccoli is around 5 grams. And one of the really good ones is wholemeal spaghetti. So if you're a family that you have pasta every single week, just like we do, I always try to swap out and have a wholemeal pasta instead of a white pasta, simply for the whack of fiber that everybody gets. So again, this is what's coming back to having those 2 pieces of fruit each and every day, because you are already very, very close to having nearly 10 grams of fiber for the day, simply by having those 2 pieces of fruit. Eating as much color as possible. It's really, really important. It keeps you feeling fuller for longer. It does wonderful things for your bowels. You make really much better looking stools, which is so important. You feel fuller for longer and your gut thrives on it. So lots and lots and lots of benefits for eating plenty of fiber.
So Cody, so an apple, I have an apple a day. What is that, 5 grams?
It'd be close to, yeah. I mean, of course, depending on the size of the apple, but yes, it would definitely be up there, being close to 5 grams. Make sure that you're eating the skin too, because the skin will be the most fibrous. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. So having that second piece of fruit per day will also go a long way to boosting up your fiber.
A banana would be 4 or 5 grams.
Bananas are a little bit less. So a pear and an apple are really fibrous. Banana would probably be more like 3.5 grams of fiber. Yep.
So just quickly, I come home from work And of
Yeah.
course, I'd like a cup of coffee, and then you might have a little biscuit. So would it be better to have a multigrain bit of toast with honey on it than a biscuit?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It'd definitely be better, but even better to have a wholemeal bit of toast with some banana on it, or it might be, or you might have a bit of avocado on it. I know it's not a sweet thing, but yes, a bit of wholemeal toast with something a little bit more nutritious on top would be a fantastic snack. Definitely.
Cool.
Excellent. And yes, we don't talk so much now about soluble and insoluble fiber. Fiber is just very much so grouped together, but absolutely reduces your blood cholesterol and reduces your risk of bowel cancer. There's so many wonderful things. Facts about salt, sodium. So absolutely, we all consume way too much sodium. We really only require a very small amount of sodium in our diet for our bodies to work properly. So we do need some salt, we do need some sodium, absolutely, but we don't need as much as what we're currently eating. So too much sodium leads to high blood pressure and has been linked to heart failure, kidney problems, stroke, and lots and lots of other health conditions. So to reduce your risk and to try and consume the right amount of sodium or salt per day is to have no more than 1 teaspoon of salt per day. Now, it's really hard because sodium is the flavor, basically. So when we're eating a lot of processed foods, we can be guaranteed that we're eating a lot of salt because manufacturers have to make the products taste really good, of course. So what they do in order to do that is they pump it up with generally a lot of salt. So particularly in breads and in cereals, we find that that's where there tends to be a lot of sodium and a lot of salt. A really good rule of thumb to go by, and even if you don't pay any attention to nutrition label stuff tonight whatsoever, if you just make sure that you jot this one down, that foods that have less than 400 milligrams of sodium per 100 gram of product. So that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for less than 400 milligrams of sodium per 100 gram of product. So I will tell you here. So I've got a thing of condensed sweet milk here in front of me. We are going to go through this together properly, but I'm just going to tell you now that per 100 grams of this product, there is 100 milligrams of sodium, okay? So based on that, this is not a bad choice when it comes to sodium intake, but I wouldn't expect there to be a lot of sodium in this because obviously it's going to be really high in sugar and fat because it's a condensed milk product. But the nutrition panel will always tell you that how much sodium is in this per 100 gram of product, okay? So it's a good rule of thumb to become familiar with. Less than 400 milligrams means it's not a bad product in the sodium world. And if you're a family that always has salt and pepper on the table when you sit down, it might be time to reconsider that because that's when most people put on almost a whole teaspoon of sodium in that meal. So generally speaking, we don't need the added salt that we tend to put onto our meals. So it's just one to become a little bit more familiar with and start to look at your breads. You'll be very surprised because they will range from, almost nothing to a lot. So get very familiar with what the sodium level is in your breads and in your cereals, but we'll talk more about reading labels. Facts about sugar. So not all sugars are the same, and you will never ever hear me say that anyone should be cutting out sugar. You remember how there was the big craze about how everyone should be sugar-free and quit sugar and don't eat sugar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's really poor advice because it's actually not a good idea to cut out all the sugar from your diet. There's 2 reasons for that, basically, because there are 2 different types of sugars. Now, you've got your naturally occurring sugars and then you've got your added sugars. Now, naturally occurring sugars are found in, of course, things like fruits, in vegetables, in dairy products, in legumes, in beans, in all types of things like that. Now, they're naturally occurring sugars, so they have grown in that plant or in that product as such. And when you eat that, say, for example, a banana, yes, you're getting some sugar, but you're also getting all these other wonderful nutrients. So the naturally occurring sugars I have no issue with. The ones that I do have an issue with is the added sugars. So these are, in generally speaking, manufactured products, and they are, as we know, as refined sugars. And generally speaking, when they're added to a manufactured product, they are added in large quantities. So, for example, things like sugary sweetened beverages, like confectionery, like baked goods, like donuts and cakes, and all those types of really, really sweet things. So when you have those, you're having a whole lot of sugar, but you're also not really having much else in it. So a donut might have a lot of sugar and some saturated fat, but it doesn't have a whole lot else in it. In comparison to a banana, again, that yes, it's got sugar, but it's got so many other wonderful things to it. So that's the difference, and that's what's really important to be aware of. And if somebody says to you, "Oh, you're not going to eat that banana, right, because it's got too much sugar in it," they're right that it does have sugar in it, but it's not an accurate, helpful statement. So please ignore people that speak like that, because it's not helpful. So basically speaking, a female adult should have around 6 to 7 teaspoons of added sugar per day. A male should have around 8 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. Now, the rule of thumb is 1 teaspoon of sugar is equal to 4 grams. Okay, so if you had a product and when you read it and it said the per serving was 8 grams of sugar, then you would know that in that serve you'd be having 2 teaspoons of added sugar for the day. Okay, so something like a 600 ml bottle of Coke has 16 teaspoons of sugar, of added sugar in it. Okay, so we know already now that if I was to have a 600 ml bottle of soft drink, that I would be getting double my requirements of added sugar for the entire day, because I should only be having around 7 or 8, and there's 16 teaspoons of sugar in that 600 ml bottle of Coke. So it just gives you a good understanding around getting familiar with what your labels are. And if you're somebody that does drink a lot of sugary sweetened beverages, then it's a really good one to try and flick off, because they have so much sugar in them. And as I've already said, the sugar, you're not getting any benefit from those products whatsoever. You're just getting a whole ton of sugar. Okay, so 4 grams of added sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon, and all adults should be having somewhere between 6 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. Now, we'll look at the nutrition labels around that as well. Alcohol. So alcohol is another one. I mean, at the end of the day, alcohol is a toxin. It's not something that our bodies want us to be having whatsoever. We don't get any health benefit from it. Our minds might feel like we get a little bit of benefit from it because we feel relaxed, or we feel happy, or we feel chilled out, or whatever it might be. But in terms of health benefit, there isn't any. The rule of thumb when it comes to alcohol is having no more than 10 standard drinks per week and no more than 2 in a sitting. So it's really sort of basically saying not to binge drink, so not to have your 10 standard drinks in one night. When and if you do drink, of course, is to have some water in between the alcoholic beverages, and aim for multiple days in the week where you're not having alcohol. So if you are somebody that likes to have an alcoholic drink, have maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then you have a big gap of not having anything. That just gives your body and your filtration system a good amount of time to get rid of the toxin and to sort of flush it out in a good amount of time, I suppose. For some people, they don't drink a whole lot. For others, they might need to be a little bit more aware of what their alcohol consumption is like. But this is not new news to people. I mean, we all know that alcohol is not something that we should be having a whole lot of, but just being really careful about how you are spreading your drinks throughout the week and making sure that you're having plenty of water. And of course, really not trying not to have the pre-mixed stuff, like the I don't know what, like a UDL or something like that. Like that's full of sugar. So either mix it yourself if that's something that you like to have, or just stick to a glass of champagne or a glass of wine. And your lower alcohol beers are always your best bet. So something like a full strength beer is obviously going to have a lot more alcohol in it. So go for a mid strength or something a bit lighter than that. That's always going to be your best option. Okie dokie. So let's get into reading labels. Now, something I just want to point out to you, which everyone always finds really helpful, this little thing. So in your life, what do they call it? Participant workbook. At the very back page, you'll see there's a little card there, and it's like a size of a credit card or something like that. Mine is your at a glance guide to healthier food shopping. Now, this is a really helpful guide because it gives you the sort of parameters of what is a poor choice, what is an okay sometimes choice, and what is an excellent choice when it comes to reading labels. So this can be a really helpful thing to use when you're first going to the supermarket again after tonight, and just getting familiar with what your usual products are and what how they sort of fare when it comes to their nutrition quality. So that's a really good card that you can pop into your wallet and use when you are next shopping. So coming to our products. So like I said, I've got condensed milk. Now, if you could all grab your products, just so then you can keep up with what I'm actually talking about. So now, by law, all food products have to have an ingredient list and they have to have a nutrition panel, okay? Now, the ingredient list, generally speaking, is found on the back of the product, and they are listed in order of quantity from largest to smallest. So, for example, this product is made up mostly of milk, which makes sense because it's condensed milk. And then secondly is sugar. And then third is milk solids. So my product is pretty simplistic when it comes to the ingredient list as such. And that is as I would expect, that milk would be the largest ingredient of this product. But for other products, you'll read that one of the first or second ingredient is a sugar, or it is a type of salt. And so then you can start to think, is this such a great idea? Because this has clearly got a lot of sugar in it. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb just to get really familiar with, is looking at the ingredient list. What is the number one item on that list? Okay. So just like it says there, if a product is high in saturated fat, added salt, or added sugar, those ingredients will always be at the start of the list. Now, coming to the nutritional panel. So by law, what these nutrition panels have to have is, things like energy, protein, sodium, sugar, fat. If they've got a good fiber content, they will list fiber, but you generally don't tend to see fiber. And they have to list it per serving and also per 100 gram. Now, when we're comparing products, so for example, using this little card, we always look at the per 100 gram column because that's the uniform column. That's the column that we know that it is 100 grams of the product. Because the problem is that the per serving size is determined by the manufacturer. So they might say, let's say that in a tub of ice cream, they might say that the per serving size is 3 tablespoons. And you would, in this tub of ice cream, there would be 25 serves. So then when you look at that serving size that they've listed, you think, that product's actually not bad. It's quite low in sugar, it's quite low in fat, blah, blah, blah. But when you then go and serve yourself the ice cream, you're actually having about 8 serves of what they have listed as the per serving size. So it's really important to get familiar with the 100 gram column. That's what we compare to, because we have no control over what the per serving size actually is, because generally it's a lot smaller than what we tend to eat. So it's a really important one to be really conscious of, is what is the actual serving size before, and is that appropriate and is similar to how much I eat? So looking at, I'll get some of you to tell me what you've got. So let's start with sodium, because like I said, mine is actually quite low in sodium. which is to be expected. Does anyone have above 400 milligrams of sodium per 100 gram of product?
I do.
Yes. What have you got?
So I've got a jar of olives and they've got 970 milligrams.
Yes. So that is to be expected, of course, because olives sit in brine and olives are quite salty. But yeah, so that's a really salty product. Absolutely. Yep. Oh, yeah. There they are. Does anyone else have
They're
high?
delicious.
They're so delicious. Of course they are. Does anyone else have higher than 400 milligrams of sodium per 100
No.
grams
I
of
do.
product? Yeah. Who's that?
I do, Helena.
Oh, go, Helena. What's yours?
I've got the Vita Wheat biscuits, and the sodium content for 100 grams is 459. So it's just a bit over.
Just a bit over.
Yeah.
Over. Yes. And again, biscuits, like the dry biscuit world is roped into this bread world in that it is very hard to find dry biscuits that are low in salt. Now, if you were to compare the Vita Wheats to like a Salata, you would find that the Salata is really high in salt. So
Okay.
yeah,
It's
so
not such a bad choice.
it's not such a bad choice, no, because the biscuit world is hard yakka to find low sodium biscuit.
Sorry, that's my dog. Yep.
No, you're fine. I can't even hear it. You're fine. Thanks,
Thanks.
Helena. Good one. Excellent. Has anyone got really low sodium?
Well, I got chickpeas, Katie.
Yeah. What's your
208 milligrams.
Yeah. Yes. And do you know what? Most of the sodium would be in the brine they're sitting in. So that's why it's really important when you, for example, we had bolognese for dinner tonight and I always put a couple of cans of lentils in it. But I always rinse the beans first. So always make sure that you rinse your chickpeas or rinse your lentils or that type of thing, because it gets rid of that sort of little bit of salt that sits in the brine.
I think Leanne does. I mean, I do sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. But no, that's good and as expected. Has anyone got less than 200 milligrams? Less than Phil? Linda? Hang on. Sorry, Linda, you just muted there. Hey, Linda, can you just unmute yourself, please?
There you go.
Oh, good. Okay, start again.
I've got applesauce and it's really low, less than 5.
Excellent. So what I want you to do, Linda, now jump up and tell me per 100 grams, how much sugar do you have?
22.0.
22.0, and that's per 100 grams?
Yes.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad in all things considered, because generally speaking, a condiment like applesauce would be really quite high. So when we look at, we can look at this card here, but when we're looking at sugar, anything more than 15 grams of sugar per 100 gram of product is considered a poor choice. Now, I would almost guarantee that every single condiment like sweet chili, applesauce, the relishes, all that kind of stuff will nearly always be higher than this. So it is to be expected when it comes down to condiments. I'll tell you what my condensed milk has in it. So per 100 gram of product, I have 55 grams of added sugar in this product. So that is significantly high, because we should only be having no more than 15 grams of added sugar per 100 gram of product. But again, it's to be expected because this is a sweetened condensed milk. So I would never sit and just eat a whole tub of that. However, plenty of people have done in the past. So it is to be mindful of. Has anyone got a really sugary product?
Can I just mention in the Vita Wheats,
Yes.
It says carbohydrate per 100 grams is 60.3 grams. And then it has a separate underneath that, it has sugars, which are 1.7 grams. How do you interpret those two?
Yes, so carbohydrates, we're not worried about those. We're more so looking at the sugar Yes.
So that sugar section is that added sugar.
Correct. Spot on. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. So it will always list what the carbohydrate load is, but
Total. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. But with something like a Vita-Wheat, it's a whole grain, so it's got wonderful and fantastic nutrients in it. It's more the added sugar that we don't want to be having too much of.
Okay.
Good
Okay,
question,
good.
Helena. Yeah, excellent. So
Thanks.
your Vita-Wheats
Thank
are
you.
still looking good.
Good.
What about you, Laura? Did you have a product there?
Yeah, I did. I had a can of spaghetti.
Oh, what's the sugar like?
Per 100, it's only 3.5 grams,
Oh, that's good.
and your sodium's 295. So
That's
it's
shaping
in
up.
range.
Yeah, that's a pretty good product. Yeah, so that would be a good snack. So anything less than 5 grams of added sugar per 100 grams is considered a really good option. So that's an excellent choice. Now, when we look at saturated fat, that's another really good one to look at. We want to be having less than 3 grams of saturated fat per 100 gram of product. Now, my condensed milk has failed me again because I've got 5 grams of saturated fat per 100 gram of product. So this is pretty high in saturated fat. Has anyone else got higher than that, higher than 5 grams of saturated fat per 100 gram of product? All right, Laura's looking good. Helena won't. Catherine won't.
Mine's actually 0, Katie.
Ugh. Your snack's coming up trumps there, Laura. You've done very well. Michelle, what product did you have? Oh, nice. Yeah, good.
They're all right.
Yes.
They've got 360 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams.
Yep.
But sugars is less than 1 gram. They've got good dietary fiber.
Yeah, excellent. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the same as Phil, most of that sodium will be in the brine that they're sitting in. It's not actually in the bean, so that's fine. Michelle, you should have bought some of that cheese in your fridge to compare, because that would have been a totally different result.
It's gone.
I should have known. So this card is really helpful, and I know that it can seem a bit tiresome starting to go through products, but you will find that products that you used to buy just without thinking, you'll suddenly look at and start to dissect them a little bit more, and then start to look at other ones and compare. I remember one night doing this session, and a lady had bought pesto that she always eats, and when she looked at the salt intake, it was something extortionate. Like, it was almost 2,000 milligrams per 100 gram of product. You can imagine pesto is so salty. So all she has done is she continues to eat pesto, but she's just found a better brand that uses less salt. So it's not about removing all the products that you love from your life. It's more about becoming a bit of a smarter shopper and just looking and comparing and choosing something that still suits your price range, but perhaps is a little bit less in salt, a little bit less in sugar, a little bit less in saturated fat. So this card is really, really helpful. And I will just tell you, actually, I think I might mention it again in the later on, but there is an app and it's called Food Checker. I was just trying to find it on my phone, but I'll check it later. But it's called Food Checker, and that's one that you can actually scan the barcode in the supermarket, and it will come up with the sort of traffic light system, and it will show you whether the salt's in a good range or a poor range or an okay range. Same with the sugar, same with the fat, etc. So if you're into apps, that's a really good one to use to help you speed up the process a little bit. Okay, so yes, comparing products. This is just exactly what I've just touched on. That's the comparison, and it's exactly the same for 100 ml of drink as well. So 100 gram of product, and the same goes for drinks, but it's 100 ml of the product, just to be clear on that as well. Oh, here I am. Sorry. Yes. So just to help, that's the app there, the Food Switch app. So like it says, it helps you to scan the barcodes of packaged foods and then presents you with immediate, easy to understand info about the product's nutritional value. So just like you can see there, it brings it up as in a, yes, the salt is good, or the fat's bad, etc., etc. So that's a good one to have just for while you are getting familiar with your products. The Health Star rating system has been, somewhat successful and somewhat beneficial, but you do still need to be a little bit mindful of relying solely on it, mainly because it's up to the manufacturer's discretion as to whether or not they want to put the Health Star rating on the front of their packaging. And so you can imagine that it's not products like that are really high in saturated fat and sugar and things. They're not the ones putting that Health Star rating on the front of their packaging. It's more the products that want you to know how healthy they already are. So, so be a little bit skeptic when you are sort of looking at that rating system, but it is, it can be helpful sometimes too. But the Food Switch one is good. I still use that myself just when I'm buying a new product, just to do a quick assessment to see what it's sort of like. So that is a good app. Small changes in eating habits can make a big, big difference, just like we've already sort of touched on. So eating a wide variety is so important. I know it's so hard because when you've got to come up with something to eat every single day, and it doesn't have to be quite that extreme, but just so we're not getting into the habit of having a carrot, a potato, and a broccoli 7 nights a week. It's just having the sort of variety, getting a big wide mixture of foods is really important. Small changes in your eating habits go a long, long way. So just like Michelle said, choosing a low-fat milk, swapping out the coconut milk, putting something else in instead. Be mindful of portion control. And I will go on about portion control lots and lots, because for most of us, it's not what we're eating, it's how much of it that we are eating. There's a little acronym that I like to teach my clients, and it's called the HALT acronym, like hold, stop. So HALT is to use if you find yourself, so for example, today it was cold, so you might have been going to the fridge more often, going to the pantry a little bit more. The HALT acronym forces you to stop and to actually ask whether you are getting food because you are hungry or whether you're getting food for a whole other reason. So H stands for HALT. H stands for hungry. A stands for anxious, like I'm a little bit wound up, a little bit stressed, I'm a little bit sort of, on edge. L stands for lonely. So I'm feeling a bit flat, I'm feeling a bit sad, I'm just not feeling quite right. And T stands for tired. So if when you're going to the fridge for the 15th time today, you think, right, just halt. Am I H, hungry? Am I A, anxious, wound up? Am I L, lonely? Am I T, tired? Why am I getting this food? If it's anything but for H, hungry, you've got to turn on your toes and you've got to walk away and find another strategy, find something else to do, because we rely on food for so many other reasons than just for when we're feeling hungry. It's for when we're feeling bored, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling all these other things. But food will never, ever, ever fix an emotional problem. It might feel like it's going to provide comfort, and it does for a little bit, but then very quickly the vicious cycle continues, and then we feel guilty because we've overeaten, or we feel bad because we've eaten more than we wanted to, But just checking in with yourself and really asking yourself, why am I looking for food, is a really good thing to get into the practice of, okay? So small changes in eating habits make a big difference, particularly when combined with physical activity. So if you're sort of being a little bit more aware of what you're eating and why, and then you're also doing your regular physical activity, it's the perfect combo. When you are using different recipes, there is, it's a good habit to get into can be about, making some small changes. So whenever I do baking, like I tend to bake something most weeks just for school lunch boxes and things, I will always use less sugar than what they recommend, because generally speaking, you don't need a cup of caster sugar. So I will always go for half a cup or go for something a bit less. But yes, looking at how you can reduce, remove and swap is a really good thing to do. Using healthier cooking methods, where if you do a lot of sort of, shallow frying or deep frying, then of course looking for other options like stir frying, roasting, steaming, microwaving, grilling. I personally don't have an air fryer, but gee, I hear a lot about them. Like that's a really good option as well. So just looking at the way in which you are preparing your meals can be really helpful. Now, I just threw this together because sometimes it can be quite helpful to sort of see what a healthy day on a plate can sort of look like. So in an ideal world, and I probably said all of this to you guys already when we were doing our intro sessions together, but breakfast would be something that's got a lot of fibre in it. So we've already had our glass of water. We've started the day with our glass of water, and now we're having brekkie. So we might have 2 Weet-Bix, some chopped up fresh fruit, might be some strawberries or bananas or something like that. We're going to have some Greek yogurt on it, some plain yogurt, and we're going to have a couple of tablespoons of seeds or some chopped nuts. So in that, we're getting our fibre, we're getting our protein, we're getting our good fats in the seeds and the nuts, and also some dairy from the milk choice that we have. And we're feeling full because we've had lots of fibre. So we're now going to be feeling satisfied until morning tea. So then we're going to have coffee, we're going to have our piece of fresh fruit, or we might have some dry biscuits with cheese and Vegemite, or some of Helena's Vita Wheats with peanut butter or something like that, a boiled egg. Again, we're eating regularly, so we're eating every sort of 2 to 3 hours. And we're not letting ourselves get too hungry, so then we don't overeat. Then it comes to lunch, we'll have a salad roll, a wrap, or we might have some leftovers from dinner the night before. For afternoon tea, we're going to have more colour. We're going to have our veggies. We might have it with some dip like hummus or tzatziki or salsa, or you might have your second piece of fruit then if you haven't already had it for breakfast. And then for dinner, we're going to have half a plate of veggies. We're going to have some whole grains, some protein. We might have some rice or some stir fry or a curry, or might be sausages with some veggies. And then if you're still hungry after that, you might have more fruit, a couple of bits of dark chocolate, a cup of tea, something like that. But eating every 2 to 3 hours, eating regularly is so important. Drinking plenty of water. So every time you have a hot drink, have a glass of water as well. And as always, eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. Now, like none of this stuff is hard. I get that it can be boring. I get that people look at it and think, yeah, but Katie, like there's nothing fun in that list. As a geeky nutritionist, I see that as being a really fun list of food. But I understand that it doesn't excite everybody, but it fills you up. You feel really satisfied. You don't think about food all day because you've eaten well. You have really good bowel movements. There's loads and loads of benefits to eating like that. But yes, in an ideal world, that's how I would prescribe for you all to eat every single day. We're sort of not really up to changing our goals yet. We're still working on the goals that we set in our intro session. So we don't need to look too much at this, but just like you and I had already set, your goals really need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. Setting a goal like, I will lose weight, is incredibly unhelpful because it doesn't actually say what we are to do or how we are to do it. So swapping out, looking at your cereals, what you're having each day, swapping out your low fat for your full cream milk, breaking your goals down is what it's all about, and being really simplistic. Reducing your fat intake, experiment with low fat cooking methods, go easy on fried foods, and spread margarine or butter really thinly, or use avocado. Buy lean cuts of meat and trim all the visible fat off your chicken or your red meat, using small amounts of margarine and oils instead of butter. Limit foods that contain palm oil and coconut oil specifically, and use low fat milks, yogurts and cheeses where you can. These are some good recipe spots that I tend to go to a little bit. The CSIRO Total Wellbeing Diet is a really good place to go to for lots of recipes. Live Lighter, which is by Diabetes Vic, was really good. Eating Well website is also another really good one that's got some good recipes in it. There are a couple of recipes in this workbook as well. So, but if you've got any that you like to use, then by all means, please share them. Increasing your fibre intake. Include high fibre cereals and breads with grains. We're not having white bread anymore, everyone. White bread is out. Whole grain, multigrain, wholemeal is what we're now eating. Eat at least 5 veggies and 2 pieces of fruit each and every day. Try and eat legumes once per week. Add your can of lentils to your pasta mince or add it to your tacos or whatever it might be, but try and have some beans. Decreasing your salt intake. Stop or cut down on using salt in cooking and at the table. Read your food labels. So now you know how to, now you know what to look for. Look for the low salt options. And again, remember, salt is just flavor most of the time. So choose to flavor your foods with other things, fresh herbs and lemons and vinegars and pepper, chili, so many other things you can use to flavor your foods. I'm nearly done, guys. I'm so close. Key messages. Small changes in your diet can make a big, 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 big difference. We don't have to go too extreme. We can just keep it small and keep it achievable. Eating well can be achieved with small diet changes. Healthy eating does not have to be difficult, nor is it about restricting. I want you to eat. I actually want you to eat a lot of fiber. I want you to eat food. Making dietary changes is not as difficult task when broken down into smaller bites. And having a plan to reach my healthy eating goals makes it much more likely that I will succeed. So have your healthy eating goals and stick to them. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. In the section 2 of your book, there is some fact sheets, which just sort of really reiterates the messaging that we've been talking about tonight. So don't do it tonight, but maybe tomorrow or the next day, go and give those a read just to really, get that information in. Now, I do need to make mention of this because in 2 weeks' time, it is actually a public holiday. So Diabetes Victoria didn't want me to run the session on the public holiday because they thought it would be too unfair and you'd all be having wonderful holidays. So we are now having session 3 next Monday night. Okay, so I know that does mess with us a little bit because I said it'll be every 2 weeks. But yes, they don't want us getting together on a public holiday, which is totally fine because it is a holiday and I want you to have a nice long weekend. So our session 3 will be in 1 week's time. So we'll be catching up again before you know it. So please put that in your diary. As always, I will send the email out at the end of the week and I'll text you again on the Monday night and say we're meeting tonight, but please put this in your diary for next week. I have finished talking. Thank you, everyone. It's hard to sit and listen when someone's just talking at you for a whole hour, but I do appreciate your patience and for staying with me and still looking awake. Does anyone have any questions? There's none in the chat box, is there, that I didn't see? No, that's good. There's a lot to take in. I do understand. Yes, Michelle, go for it.
Sorry, I didn't catch the third recipe website that you recommend. Could you? So I got the Diabetes Australia, and there was another one before that, and then I missed the third.
Yeah,
I
sure.
got the CSIRO.
CSIRO, yeah, and Live Lighter Diabetes, and then the Eating Well website is what it's called. So if you just Google, Eating Well website. But again, if you do find any that you find is a good recipe, everyone is always looking for recipes, I find. So if you find a website yourself or there's one you like to use already, please share it because it's really helpful for everybody else. And for me, I get sick of making the same stuff all the time. Any other questions, everyone? I hope you all go off and have a piece of fruit and a cup of tea. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to go have my Weet-Bix.
Good job, Phil. That'd be excellent. You're going
to get as I told you at the CFA, I've been doing that for 30 years, probably longer. I have 2 weeks before I go to bed.
And you sleep like a baby all night. That's good.
I do.
Yes, Michelle, go for it.
Do you have any suggestions? I think one of my habits might be eating when I'm hungry. Eating when I'm hungry, but also eating when I'm tired.
I know.
So what do you suggest to give you an energy boost when you're tired? And it tends to happen I think when I'm preparing dinner.
Yeah.
So I'm tired and I'm
Looking
thinking, oh
for
God,
that.
not
Yeah.
cooking
gotta-
this again.
Yeah, that's right. I've got
so
to
that
get through this meal. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
know
that
it's
gives
so
stress.
hard. It's so hard, that one. So I think if it's specifically at that cooking dinner time, then of course, you know, the recommendations for when you're eating, if you're an overeater when you're tired, is of course to try and get some sleep, because that's what your body is obviously wanting. However, sorry, I always lose my voice by the end of this session. But having a glass of sparkling water can be something just to sort of try and, you know, I don't know, zhuzh things up. But also going for a brisk walk is another really good one. But again, it's tricky if you're actually cooking dinner, because you can't just abandon, you know, drop tools and go for a brisk walk. But trying to do anything really, put on some music, put on the news, try and do anything just to sort of stimulate yourself, so you're not so focused on how your brain is feeling and how your stomach is feeling, because it really is just a matter of finding other strategies to try and manage it as such. But I hear you, like finding something to cook every single night of the week is so painful. But it's just reminding yourself that you're not actually hungry. You really are just looking for some sort of comfort and some sort of, you know, but it needs to be a different strategy. That's the thing. You need to sort of find what specifically works for you. Yeah, absolutely. That's right, Catherine. If you want to cut up a carrot or cut up a bit of celery or nibble on some capsicum or something like that, totally fine. And don't forget, if you are actually hungry, eat. That will always be my number one thing. Don't deny yourself food because you feel like you should be waiting for dinner. Have some carrot, have something. You know, denying yourself food when you are feeling hungry is not the aim of the game by any stretch. So yeah, absolutely. Chop up some fresh stuff and eat it. Enjoy it. But yes, but also try and get some sleep. It's really important. Really important.
Yeah, for sure.
Poor old Laura. I can see you thinking, I just want to go to bed now. Yeah, basically. Yeah, good. Any other questions?
All good. Yeah.
All good. Excellent. Well, if you do think of anything, please reach out. But in the meantime, yes, expect my email to come this Friday, because we'll be seeing each other in 1 week's time. Okay. And that session is all about physical activity. Okay, and exercise. So have a wonderful week, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. And yeah, go and read your food labels. All right.
Thanks, Katie. That's good. Yeah.
Thanks,
you.
Katie.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.